What if Kaguya's defeat wasn't the end, but the beginning of Naruto's greatest battle? The world believed peace had finally arrived. Naruto had saved everyone, the war was over, and Kaguya was gone. But deep in the shadows, an enemy far more terrifying was waiting. This time, Naruto isn't fighting for victory. He's fighting for the fate of the entire shinobi world. And when Naruto discovers the truth behind this new enemy, he realizes one shocking thing: Kaguya was never the final threat. Fire, the ultimate battle begins now. Can Naruto survive what comes next? Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic story part 3. The fanfic title is What If Naruto's Greatest Battle Was After Kaguya's Defeat part 3. If you like this fanfic, don't forget to subscribe my channel. Now let's start the fanfics. Naruto yawned as his eyes slowly opened. When his eyes fully opened, he was instantly met with the sleeping face of Anko. She had fallen asleep on top of him after their lovemaking last night. She didn't even bother taking Naruto's shaft out of her womanhood. Naruto had a small smile on his face as he watched Anko sleep peacefully. He then looked to the mate mark on her arm and his smile widened. He reached out and gently ran his fingers over the marks. I promise Anko-chan that I'll show you all the love that you were denied for all these years. We'll shower our child with the love that we were both denied. Naruto thought as he pictured his future family with all the girls. At Naruto's touch, Anko started to stir slightly. She let out a soft yawn and started to stretch. Anko-chan, time to get up, Naruto said softly as he kissed the top of Anko's head. 5 more minutes, Anko said in a tired voice as she buried her face into the crook of Naruto's neck. All right, my wise snake, Naruto said as he hugged Anko close to his chest. After a few more minutes in each other's embrace, Anko reluctantly got up. She let out a soft moan of disappointment as Naruto's shaft slid out of her. Last night was amazing, Naruto, Anko said with a smile. You made me feel so special. It's because you are special to me, Anko. Each of you girls has something special that I love about you. Anko smiled, but it turned to a frown when she looked at herself and Naruto. Come on, Gaki, let's wash up, Anko said as she grabbed Naruto's arm and led him into the shower. After cleaning each other up, Naruto and Anko were now in the kitchen. Anko sat at the table and watched as Naruto raced around the kitchen to prepare breakfast. I never saw Konan, where do you think she is? Anko asked as Naruto cracked a few eggs and put some bread in the toaster. Konan-chan is so busy at the academy that she often sleeps there. She even has a cot set up in one of the storage rooms, Naruto said with a chuckle. I swear Sakura-chan and her work themselves to death sometimes. Yeah, Sakura looks like a zombie sometimes after her shifts, Anko said as a few giggles escaped her lips. I know it worries me sometimes, but I know it makes her happy to save lives, Naruto said as he placed a plate of food in front of Anko. Anko looked at the plate of scrambled eggs and toast. A meal fit for a bachelor, Anko said with a grin. Hey, I may not know how to cook many things, but what I can cook is really good, Naruto said with a pout before he started to eat. Besides, Konan-chan has been doing a lot of the cooking lately. She's actually an amazing cook, Naruto said as his mouth started watering as he thought of Konan's cooking. Anko just rolled her eyes and took a bite of her food. Her eyes widened when she tasted it. They were the best tasting eggs she had ever eaten. Immediately she started to scarf down the food. Seeing this caused Naruto to burst out laughing. Ha, told you I can cook, Naruto said with a grin. After a second helping of eggs, Naruto and Anko sat at the table drinking some tea and making small talk. So what are you gonna do today? Anko asked as she sipped her tea. I don't know. If the girls don't try and jump me, I was gonna go and visit Ino-chan. What about you? I have to go and help Ibiki with a few things, Anko said as she finished the last of her tea. So why do you want to see Ino? Naruto let out a sigh before he started speaking. It's just that out of all you girls, Ino-chan and I have had the roughest past interactions. I know she wants to try and make up for all the times she was mean to me. But I don't want her to feel like she's obligated to love me. I truly love and care for her, and I want to show her that. Anko smiled at Naruto's words. She could tell that he meant everything. He truly did love and care for them all. But before I visit her, there's something I have to tell you, Anko-chan. What is it, Naruto? Anko asked. The seriousness in his voice surprised her. It has to do with the marks on your arm. Anko snuck a glance at the 2 rings on her arm. Yeah, what about them? What I'm about to tell you is pretty big news. Are you ready? Seeing Anko nod, Naruto took a deep breath. Anko-chan, those marks make you one of my mates. It also means that you're probably pregnant. Quote. Anko went wide-eyed and her breath hitched. I'm pregnant. More than likely. The same thing happened with Sakura-chan. Kurama said it had to do with my sperm being infused with his chakra, or something like that. Quote. That's exactly what it is, you Baka. Kurama roared from his cage. Love you to Kurama. Stupid Gaki. Kurama grumbled as he laid his head down and tried to sleep. Naruto looked and saw Anko's shocked face. So he grabbed her hands and squeezed them lightly. Anko, you're gonna be a mom. Anko started to take quick shallow breaths, but she did have a smile growing on her face. Mom. I'm gonna be a mom, Anko said as tears of joy poured from her eyes. I'm gonna be a mom. Without warning, Anko tackled Naruto and crushed him with a tight hug. Thank you, Naruto. Anko yelled as she peppered kisses all over Naruto's face. I love you. Naruto just laughed at Anko's behavior and returned her embrace. I love you too, Anko-chan. After Anko had calmed down, she sat back down at the table with Naruto. Anko was busy trying to wipe away the last of her tears, while Naruto just smiled at her. Anko-chan, I'm gonna go visit Ino-chan. After you're done with Ibiki, I want you to go find Sakura-chan and tell her the news. Have her examine you and confirm everything. Naruto said as he stood up. Anko nodded, so Naruto gave her a kiss and walked out the door. When Naruto was gone, Anko placed a hand on her stomach and a large smile graced her face. Well, I guess I should get to work. Anko thought as she threw on her trench coat and walked out the door. After about 10 minutes of walking, Naruto stood outside the Yamanaka flower shop. He smiled at the thought of seeing Ino. When he walked into the shop, he saw Ino with her face buried in a magazine, not even paying attention. Welcome to the Yamanaka flower shop. Ino drawled out in a bored voice, not even looking up from her magazine. That's not a very good way to greet customers, Ino-chan. Ino's head shot up when she heard Naruto's voice. She saw him standing right in front of her with a miv grin plastered on his face. Oh hi Naruto-kun, Ino said in a cheery voice as she instantly perked up. Ino was surprised when Naruto leaned across the counter and gave her a long, loving kiss. When they separated, her face was flushed red, and she had a dreamy look in her eyes. What are you doing here, Naruto-kun? Ino said as she recovered from the kiss. Well, I wanted to come see you, and I wanted to see if I could help you out around the shop for a bit. You know, some alone time, just between us. Ino's blush deepened when she heard Naruto wanted to spend some time just with her. Sure, Naruto-kun, I would love to spend some time with you. I was just about to go out back and plant some new seeds. Ino said as she started walking towards the back door. That sounds great, Ino-chan, it's been a while since I've done any gardening. Naruto said with a smile as he followed Ino. Ino handed Naruto a pair of gloves, and told him what seeds to plant and where to plant them. He immediately nodded and got right to work. They made small talk, gossiped, and even cracked jokes while they planted the seeds. Ino was amazed at how different Naruto was when he was gardening. He seemed calmer and much more patient, and he was much quieter. She watched as he diligently and gently planted each seed. She smiled as she watched her boyfriend. It was still a little strange for her to think of him like that. But then her smile turned to a frown, as she thought back to how she used to treat him. She had to make it up to him somehow. She loved Naruto, she realized that fully now, and wanted to do everything in her power to make up for her past sins. Ino was so caught up in her thoughts, that she didn't notice Naruto staring at her. A frown was on his face, as he saw the pain and regret in Ino's eyes. He quietly took off his gloves and walked over to her. By the time Ino noticed Naruto, he was already kneeling in front of her. Naruto-kun, what a. Ino was cut off when Naruto cupped her cheek and pressed his lips to hers. His tongue immediately asked for entrance into her mouth. She quickly agreed and parted her lips, allowing Naruto's tongue to dart into her mouth. Naruto's experienced tongue immediately dominated Ino's, so she let him explore her mouth, causing her to moan into the kiss. After what seemed like hours, Naruto broke the kiss, leaving Ino breathless. Naruto quickly grabbed Ino's hand, causing her to look into his eyes. Ino-chan, I don't want you to feel guilty for what you did to me in the past. I don't want you to feel like you have to make things up to me. Because what's in the past doesn't matter. What matters is that you're here now, and that you love me. You do love me, right? Of course I love you, Naruto-kun. It's just that I feel like I don't deserve to be with you after all you've done for me, and how I've treated you. Quote. Naruto smiled and gave Ino another loving kiss. Ino-chan, all that matters is what you want. It's not about what you deserve. Hell, I don't deserve to, but with a girl as amazing and beautiful as you. All that I want is for you to be happy. I'll do anything for you girls. Ino's eyes started to water when she heard Naruto's words. He really does love me. I have to show him how much I love him, but how? Ino thought, but then an idea came to mind. She quickly wiped her tears and grabbed Naruto's hand. Ino-chan, Naruto asked as she started leading him back out front. You said you'd do anything to make me happy, right? Quote. Yeah, of course. Well, the thing that will make me happy right now is if we go up to my room and make love. Naruto went wide-eyed when he heard this. Are you sure, Ino-chan? There's no going back after this. Quote. Yes, Naruto-kun, I want you to love me, to take all this guilt away. Alright, anything for my beautiful flower. Naruto said with a smile as he let Ino lead him to her room. As soon as they entered her room, Ino closed the door. Almost instantly she was on Naruto, attacking his lips with her own. Ino moaned when she felt Naruto's hands start to roam her body. She let out a small gasp when his hands cupped her. Ooh, Naruto, you dirty boy. Ino said as his hands left her and traveled upward. Oh, I can be much dirtier, Ino-chan. Naruto said with a grin as he reached up and started to mage her S through her purple top. This caused Ino to let out a series of soft moans, as Naruto needed her ample S. Naruto grinned and unbuttoned her top. Then he removed her purple lacy bra. Once her S were out, Naruto's mouth latched to one of her erect nipples. Ino grabbed Naruto's head and held him close to encourage him to continue. Naruto's tongue swirled around one nipple, while he pinched the other one with his free hand. Ino was lost in a sea of pleasure as Naruto played with her S. But she felt that he had entirely too much clothing still on. Naruto-kun, don't you think it's a little unfair that you still have all your clothes still on? Ino said, her voice hoarse from the pleasure she was experiencing. Naruto reluctantly stepped away from Ino and started to remove his clothes. After a minute he was left in just his boxers. Ino took this time to marvel at Naruto's body. Holy shit, he's perfect. Ino's breath hitched as she drank in Naruto's form. She stared at his toned muscles and pecs. But when she saw the six-pack that he was sporting, she started to drool slightly. Then her eyes lowered and she spotted the MIV tent in Naruto's boxers. Ino didn't need to see it to know that Naruto was packing some serious heat down below. Kami, he's a gift from above. Ino thought as she licked her lips. Ino noticed Naruto was just staring at her. She realized that she still had her skirt and mesh shorts on. Quickly she pulled those off and unwrapped her bindings. Now she stood in just a pair of purple panties, that had become soaked due to their previous activities. With a deep breath she pulled those down as well. Kami, you're beautiful, Ino-chan. Naruto said in awe of her beauty. Thank you, Naruto-kun, but why don't you take those off, it's looking pretty painful. Ino said with a grin as she pointed toward his raging erection. Naruto flushed with emberment, but did as he was told and pulled his boxers down. Ino's jaw dropped when she saw the size of Naruto's. Kami, he must be 11 inches, how the is that supposed to fit in me? Who the cares, I want it now. Ino thought as she looked at Naruto's. Ino walked forward and gripped Naruto's shaft and started stroking it. She then leaned in and whispered hotly into his ear. Naruto-kun, I want to skip all the foreplay, we can do that later. I need you now. Of course, my beautiful flower. Naruto said as he kissed Ino and laid her gently on the bed. He positioned himself at her entrance and looked at her. Are you sure, Ino-chan? There's no going back after this. Ino smiled up at him. Of course, Naruto-kun, now make love to me. Ino said as he wrapped her legs around his waist. Naruto gently pushed into her womanhood. Ino let out a small gasp as he entered her. She clenched her teeth as he pushed inch after inch into her. After a few moments he was fully inside of her. Ino had never felt so complete in her whole life. Naruto filled her so fully, the slightest movement caused her to moan in pleasure. After finally adjusting to his size, she nodded for him to start moving. Seeing Ino nod, Naruto slowly pulled out. Once just the tip was left in, he pushed back into her. This caused Ino to let out a loud moan. Naruto then started to take slow thrusts that filled Ino completely each time. Ino wrapped her arms around his neck, and used her legs around his waist to push him deeper into her. Naruto was getting irritated by the agonizingly slow pace, but he knew that Ino didn't want him to go all out yet. So he decided to speed up just a little bit. From Ino's increased moans and gasps, Naruto knew that he had made the right choice. Ino loved the slow pace. Naruto filled her so completely every movement. He was hitting all the right spots with every thrust. She thought it couldn't get any better, that was until Naruto sped up. This increase in speed caused Ino to have her first orgasm of the night. Holy shit! Ino yelled out as she exploded around Naruto's. Her juices coating his shaft and leaking down her thigh. Naruto smiled in satisfaction as he continued to thrust into Ino. Naruto made sweet love to Ino for what seemed like hours. The whole time he would kiss and suck on her neck, and whisper sweet words into her ear. But he was reaching his limit, and from the sound of Ino's moans he knew she was close too. Ino-chan, I'm so close. Naruto said, panting slightly. Me too. Come inside me, Naruto. I need to feel your seed inside me. Ino moaned out as Naruto picked up his pace. Are you sure, Ino-chan? If I mark you, you'll get pregnant. Quote, please Naruto, I want this. I want to start a family with you, and the other girls. Ino said as she smiled up at him. Naruto just nodded and picked up the pace again. Ino was now moaning uncontrollably. She didn't care who heard her moans of ecstasy. The whole Ing village could hear her for all she cared. After one particularly powerful thrust, Ino was sent over the edge and came again. She shouted out Naruto's name as she once again coated his with her juices. The feeling of Ino exploding around him sent Naruto over the edge. As he came, he sunk his teeth into her neck. Ino screamed out as she felt a mix of pain and pleasure from the bite. After all his seed had filled Ino's womb, Naruto slowly pulled out. Both Ino and him were panting softly. Naruto looked as Ino's arm glowed slightly and the two red and orange bands formed on her left arm. Welcome to the family, Ino-chan. Naruto said lovingly as he traced the lines on her arm. Ino looked at the bands and smiled. Then she placed a hand on her stomach. She turned to see Naruto looking at her lovingly. Well, Naruto-kun, why don't we try out that foreplay now? Ino said with devilish smile. 2 hours after they had started their session, Naruto and Ino were still going at. Currently Naruto was lying on his back, while Ino was vigorously sucking his. Her head bobbed up and down as she tried to take more and more of his shaft in her mouth. She could get about 9 inches down her throat before she started gagging. Naruto had his hands running through Ino's long platinum blonde hair, encouraging her to continue. He let out a throaty moan when she swirled her tongue around the tip of his shaft. Holy shit, she may not be as good as Sakura or Anko, but damn if she doesn't make up for it in enthusiasm. Naruto thought as he felt his orgasm quickly approaching. Ino-chan, I'm gonna come. Naruto grunted out as he started to lightly thrust into Ino's mouth. She didn't respond. She just sped up her bobbing, trying to get her prize. She was rewarded when Naruto exploded into her mouth. Ino let Naruto's shaft slide out of mouth with an audible pop, and licked her lips. I love the taste of your seed. Kami, you're such a Ino-chan. Naruto said with a lecherous grin. But I'm your. Ino said as she snuggled up to him and traced circles on his chest. Ino was enjoying Naruto's warmth and closeness. But just as she was about to nod off, she heard something that made her turn white. Are you home? I heard some noises. Inoichi Yamanaka said as he opened the door. Inoichi opened the door expecting to his daughter fussing over her appearance, or maybe reading some family scrolls. But when he opened the door and spotted his daughter, his cuddling up next to an equally Naruto Uzumaki, he nearly ped out. Inoichi looked from his daughter to Naruto several times, trying to look only in their faces. His mind finally caught up to what he was seeing and his face turned red in anger. Ino, seeing her father's anger, quickly covered herself with the bed sheets and tried to calm the situation. Now daddy, calm down. There's no need to get upset. Quote, no need to get upset. This man took my daughter's innocence, in my own home no less. Inoichi yelled, visibly shaking with anger. Uzumaki, you're a dead man. Inoichi yelled as he glared daggers at Naruto. Naruto looked at Ino and silently asked if he could bolt. Ino shared his gaze and nodded. Just as Inoichi was about to throttle Naruto, he disappeared in a flash of yellow. Huh, that was Hiraishin. When did that little bastard learn that? Inoichi thought as he stared at the empty spot where Naruto had just been. Inoichi turned his gaze to his daughter. She was currently staring at the floor with a miv blush on her face. Care to explain to me what the hell is going on? Inoichi asked, anger still evident in his voice. Ino chuckled nervously as she rubbed the back of her head. Today, Inoichi said, getting rather impatient. Ino cringed at the tone of her father's voice. She let out a sigh and looked at her father. Is mom home too? Yeah, she is, and she's probably wondering what the hell we're yelling about. Well, get her and wait for me in the living room. I'll get changed and be down in a minute. I have something really important to tell you both. Inoichi gave his daughter a questioning look before he nodded and left the room. Ino took her time getting dressed, as she didn't really want to deal with this now. But she knew it was best to just get this over with. She quickly descended the stairs and spotted her parents sitting on the couch waiting for her. Her father still had a pissed off expression on his face, while her mother looked oblivious to the situation. Taking a deep breath, Ino walked into the living room, and sat in a seat across from her parents. She placed her hand over her mate Mark, trying to hide it. Ino, care to explain to me why your father was yelling earlier? Quote, yes Ino, explain to your mother why I was so upset. Ino took a deep breath and decided to just rip the band-aid right off. I had with Naruto Uzumaki. Ino said in a low voice, as she tried to avoid their gaze. Ino's mother went wide-eyed when she heard this. Care to repeat that? I don't think I heard you right, honey. I said I had with Naruto. She said a little louder this time. That's what I thought you said, Ino's mother said with a sigh. Ino was surprised that her mother didn't seem upset. I have one question to ask you, young lady. Yes, mother. Ino asked with her head down. Do you love him? When Ino heard this, her head shot up, and she saw her mother smiling at her. Hi, I do love him, Ino said with complete sincerity. And this proves it. Ino finished by removing her hand to show her mate Mark. Ino, what is that? Inoichi asked, his eyes narrowing. This daddy is mate Mark, given to me by Naruto. This mark shows everyone that I'm his girl. Ino said with a smile as she gazed at the marks with a warm smile. Well, if you truly love this Naruto, I guess it's alright that you're active with him. Quote, dear, you can't honestly be okay with this? Inoichi asked, desperately trying to get his to be as upset as him. Oh hush dear, we were exactly the same. We were having a week after we started dating, Ino's mother said with an annoyed tone. As long as they practice safe, I don't see what the big deal is. Hearing this made Ino nervous and she started to rub her arm. Well, you see mom, the thing is, Ino said as she started to trail off. Oh no dear, you didn't. That's another thing this mark means. I'm almost guaranteed to get pregnant. Inoichi was now seething again. Does he at least plan to marry you? Hi. Sort of. Quote, what does, sort of, mean? Inoichi yelled as he stood up. It means that I won't be the only person marrying Naruto. Ino said calmly, causing his parents to go wide-eyed. What do you mean, dear? Quote, Tsunade-sama placed Naruto in a program called the Clan Restoration Act. It allows the last surviving male member of a clan to take on several wives to ensure that his family lives on. What? I'll kill that bastard. Inoichi was about to run out the door when his daughter grabbed his arm. No. Daddy, you will sit the hell down, and chill the out. Watch your mouth, young lady. I'm not a little girl anymore, Dad. I'm 17 years old, and I'm a kunoichi. I'm allowed to make my own damn decisions. I love Naruto, and I want to spend the rest of my life with him, and start a family with him. If that means I have to share him with a few other girls, that's totally fine with me. Plus I know all the girls. It's not like they're complete strangers. Hearing the paean and conviction in Ino's voice surprised both parents. Is that how you truly feel, dear? Ino's mother asked as she walked up and placed her hand on her daughter's shoulder. Hi mother, it is. I love Naruto dearly. He makes me happy and I want to spend my life with him. Ino's mother looked her daughter in the eye and let out a sigh. Then your father and I support you completely, don't we, dear? Quote, what the hell are you talking? Inoichi tried to argue but his wife stopped him. Don't we, dear? Inoichi instantly shrunk down from his wife's harsh gaze. Hi, Inoichi said as his wife smiled at him. Good. She then turned her gaze to Ino. Now dear, this might not be what we envisioned for you. But you're right, you need to make your own decisions. If you truly love Naruto, we give you our blessing to be with him. Quote, Ino squealed happily and hugged both her parents. Thank you both, I love you. Anything for you, dear. Yeah, whatever. Inoichi grumbled, still a little unhappy with the situation. But when he saw how happy his daughter looked, it brought a smile to his face. I have to go tell Sakura, Ino said as she ran to the door. I'll see you guys later. With that, Ino bolted out the door towards the hospital. 10 minutes later, Konoha Hospital. Sakura was sitting at her desk going through some paperwork. She let out a long sigh, as finished another form. This so boring. I wish I could go see Naruto. She thought as she signed another paper. Just as she finished her signature, she felt a chill run down her spine. She quickly spun around in her chair, but nothing was there. But when she turned back around, she jumped when she saw Anko sitting on the edge of her desk, grinning at her. Anko, you scared me. You're just too easy to sneak up on Pinky. Quote, Sakura let out a growl as a vein bulged on her forehead. Don't call me that. Now what do you want? Because I'm extremely busy and I want to see Naruto. The Gaki is actually why I'm here. Hearing this caused Sakura to raise a pink eyebrow. Anko just smirked and shrugged off her trench coat, revealing her mate mark. Sakura was on her feet in a second and inspecting the mark. When did you get this? Quote, last night, me and the Gaki did the deed all night long. I see, I'm guessing Naruto wanted me to inspect you and confirm if you're pregnant or not. You're pretty smart, you know. I know, I get that a lot. Sakura said with a smirk as her hands started to glow. After a few minutes, Sakura finished her inspection. Well, I can't tell 100% for sure. But if this is anything like me, and what Kurama said was true, then it's all but guaranteed that you're pregnant. Quote, is there any way for you to know for sure? Actually, yes, there is, Sakura said with a grin. She quickly walked to the door and yelled out into the hall. Karen, get in here now. Within seconds, the red-haired Kunoichi was standing in Sakura's office. Yes, Sakura Shisho, what can I do for you? Sakura smirked at Karen's obedient behavior. Much like Tsunade, Sakura had been brutally training Karen into the ground. Karen now greatly respected and feared her. I need you to try and sense a new chakra signature coming from Anko. I believe she might be pregnant. Karen just nodded before she closed her eyes and concentrated. I do sense something, it's extremely faint though. But there is definitely a new chakra coming from you. So congratulations, Anko. Anko squealed and hugged Sakura and Karen. Yes. Then I really am gonna be a mom. Anko yelled as she once again started to cry tears of joy. It's an amazing feeling, right? Sakura asked, knowing Anko's feelings firsthand. Yes it is. Anko said with a smile as she placed a hand over her stomach. Just as Anko started to wipe her tears, Ino burst into the room. Oh forehead, I have something to tell you. Ino said in a sing-song voice as she walked up to the desk, completely ignoring Anko and Karen. What is it, pig? Oh, what the hell, you too. Sakura, causing Ino to raise an eyebrow. What? Sakura just pointed to the mark on Ino's arm. Oh damn it, forehead. I wanted to surprise you. You always ruin my fun. Ino said as she pouted. Damn, that kid moves fast. Anko said with a smirk. Oh Anko, I didn't even notice you, Ino said with a smile. What do you mean? Anko just showed her shoulder to Ino. The Gaki marked me last night. Ino jumped up and hugged Anko. Yay, we're like sisters now. Quote, Anko awkwardly patted Ino on the back. Yeah sure kid, whatever. Ino smiled and released Anko from the hug. When Anko turned to Sakura, a sudden realization hit her. Wait, Pinky, it seemed like you'd seen this mark before when I showed you mine. Does that mean Naruto marked you too? Of course he did, how else do you think I got pregnant so fast? I just assumed you two were humping like bunnies, and not being careful. Sakura averted her gaze as her face turned beet red at Anko's comment. When she looked back up, she saw Ino, Anko, and Karen looking at her expectantly. What? Sakura yelled, causing Ino to smile. Well, aren't you gonna show us yours, forehead? Oh, well, okay, Sakura said as she pulled up her sleeve. But something about Sakura's mark caught both Ino and Anko's eye. Wait, forehead, why does your mark have 3 rings, and ours only have 2? Oh well, you see. Sakura started to trail off and mumble. What was that, Pinky? I don't think I heard you. I have 3 rings, because Kurama made me the matriarch of Naruto's new family. What? Why you? Ino yelled, causing Sakura to cover her ears. Don't ask me, if you want to know you'll have to talk with Kurama. Sakura said with a smirk. So does that mean we have to listen to what you say, or something? Anko said, not liking the idea at all. No, Kurama said, it's mainly a symbolic thing. I don't have any control over you, or the other girls. It's mainly a status symbol, I think. Okay, I guess that's alright, Ino said as she got a gleam in her eyes. But don't think for 1 second that I won't be Naruto's favorite forehead. Oh, you're so on, Ino pig. Sakura yelled as they both got in each other's faces, flames in their eyes. Oh, would you two just shut up and kiss already? Anko said as she stood to leave. Sakura and Ino instantly shot apart, their faces bright red. As Anko opened the door, she stopped and turned back to Sakura and Ino. I wasn't kidding. You two should try experimenting with other girls, it's rather enjoyable, Anko said as she licked her lips. I know, I liked it. With that, Anko winked and left the room, leaving the other 3 girls blushing wildly. I have to go, Sakura, I'll see you later, Ino said with a made blush as she ran out of the room. Sakura sighed and sat back down in her chair, trying to control her blush. Would it be that bad to at least try? Ino is pretty why. Inner Sakura said as she licked her lips. Sakura started to get wet, as images of Ino and her, experimenting, flashed in her mind. Then when she pictured Ino and her with Naruto, she had to suppress a moan. No, no, bad girl. Must not think like a pervert, Sakura thought as she chastised herself. You know you want her. Ooh, just the thought of the both of us with Naruto is making me so wet. Inner Sakura said as she reached a hand into her shorts. God, get the out of here, you pervert, Sakura yelled as she shut off her connection to her inner. But just before she could cut the connection, her inner self got off one last remark. Just remember that I represent what you truly feel. So don't this up. Inner Sakura stuck out her tongue before she disappeared. Sakura let out a deep breath as her face returned to its normal color. When she looked up, she saw Karen still staring at her with a smirk on her face. You may want to clean up. I can smell your arousal from here. Karen. Hearing Sakura yell like that made Karen instantly snap to attention. You don't say a word about this to anyone. If I find out you squealed, it's 2 hours of evasion training. Do I make myself clear? Sakura said in a menacing voice. Karen's face went white when she pictured the torture that was Sakura's evasion training. Hi Shisho. Then get the back to work. Karen was out of the room in a streak of red. When Karen was gone, Sakura put her feet up on her desk and let out a happy sigh. Ah, I love my job. 20 minutes earlier, Naruto's apartment. In a flash of yellow, Naruto landed on his bed. He let out breath and ran his hands through his hair. Holy shit, that was close, Naruto thought as he started to get changed. I hope Ino-chan can talk some sense into her father. Naruto walked into the living room to see Konan grading tests. Hey Konan-chan, Naruto said as he leaned in and kissed her on the cheek. Oh hello Naruto, she said with a smile. You grading papers? Yeah, she said with a sigh. We're still kinda undermanned at the academy, so the instructors all have to work overtime. Quote. Naruto frowned when he heard this. Please don't overwork yourself, Konan-chan, you're starting to worry me a little. Don't worry Naruto, I was planning to take a few days off soon anyway. Oh, okay, that's great. Well, when you take those few days off, tell me. You and me will do something, just the 2 of us. Konan smiled warmly at Naruto. I'd love that, Naruto. Well, I gotta go do some training. So I'll see you later, and I'll even make dinner tonight. Naruto gave Conan a quick kiss before he stood to leave. I love you, Conan-chan. I love you too, Naruto. Training Ground 7. Naruto was flashing around Training Ground 7 using his newly mastered Hiraishin. He was currently charging up a Raiden Rasengan. Sparks exploded everywhere when Naruto hit his target. All that was left of the target dummy was a smoldering black crater. From a nearby tree, Tenten was sitting and watching Naruto train. She watched as each of the targets Naruto hit was obliterated. She was starting to get turned on by the sheer display of power. What I wouldn't give to get a piece of that right now. Tenten thought as she licked her lips. She watched as Naruto disappeared in another flash of yellow. She was waiting for the explosion to signal where Naruto was currently. But after 10 seconds nothing happened. Where the hell did he go? Tenten thought as she scanned the trees. She nearly jumped out of her skin when she felt someone wrap their arms around her waist and nibble her ear. You know, Tenten-chan, it's now nice to spy on people, especially people you love. Naruto said as his hands roamed her body. When Naruto's hand reached her womanhood, she had to suppress a moan. What's this? Where you getting off from watching me, Tenten-chan? Tenten couldn't hold in the moans in anymore, as Naruto started to rub her through her panties. Answer the question, Tenten-chan. Naruto said hotly into her ear, making her shiver. Why, yes, I was. She said as she bit her lip. Well, maybe I should punish you for spying on me. He said as one of his hands came to upcup her. Ooh yes, Naruto, I need to punished. Tenten moaned out, causing Naruto to smirk. And how, my dear, should I punish you? He said as his hands slipped into her panties and slowly started to finger her. Tenten was now panting due to Naruto's touch. She was so close to her orgasm. Just a little more, and she was gonna explode. But just as she was about to go over the edge, Naruto's hands left her body. She whimpered at the loss of his touch. She quickly spun around and grabbed him by his collar. Please, Naruto, I'm so close, you can't leave me high and dry like this. She pleaded as she unzipped his jacket. But Naruto's hand shot up and stopped her. Maybe that will be your punishment. Naruto said with a smirk, making Tenten go wide-eyed. No, I'll do anything. Anything. Yes. Beg for it, Naruto said with a devilish smirk. What? You heard me. En no ing way, I will not be reduced to begging. I'm a kunoichi, and I'm above that. Okay then, have fun getting yourself off. Naruto said as he prepared to leap off. Just as he crouched to jump, he felt Tenten wrap her arms around him. For the love of Kami, don't go. You know what I want, if you don't do it I'm gone. Tenten sighed and placed her hands against the tree, and stuck her out. Please, Naruto-kun, I want you to me. Naruto deadpanned when he saw this. Come on, I know you can do better than that. Tenten was starting to get desperate now, she needed a release very soon. I need your big stuffed inside me now, Naruto-kun, please. Naruto grinned as he walked up to her and maged her. Ah, much better. Tenten gasped when she felt Naruto pull down her pants and panties. Are you ready, Tenten-chan? Naruto said as he rubbed her wet womanhood. Yes. Please, just me, I need it so bad. Naruto heard the need in her voice and smiled. Anything for you, my beautiful weapons mistress. Quote. Naruto slowly pushed into Tenten, causing her to yelp at the sudden intrusion. She braced herself against the bark, as Naruto inched inside her. After a few moments, Naruto was fully inside her, and she was trying to adjust to his size. Tenten had never been so satisfied in her entire life. She had used numerous toys before to help get herself off. But Naruto was better than any toy she had ever tried. After a few moments, Naruto started to piston in and out. Tenten was instantly brought to an orgasm when Naruto started to move in and out. Already, Tenten-chan, Naruto said with a smirk as he started to pound into her faster. It's your fault, damn it. You got me so worked up, then you just. Holy shit. Tenten screamed out in pleasure when she felt Naruto slap her. Ooh, did you like that? Naruto said as he slapped her again. His response was a throaty moan from Tenten. Naruto just smirked and continued to slap her as he sped up his thrusts. The sounds of slapping flesh could be heard throughout the training ground. After 15 more minutes of intense pounding, and 3 more orgasms from Tenten, Naruto was at his limit. Tenten-chan, I'm gonna come. Oh Kami, I'm so close too. Naruto then leaned in and whispered into her ear. Tenten, I'm gonna bite your neck, and mark you as my mate. But you must know that once I do this that you'll be pregnant. Quote. Tenten turned to look at Naruto and smiled at him. Then do it, Naruto. Make me yours, I want to start a family with you. Tenten then leaned in and captured Naruto's lips. Naruto grunted and broke the kiss as his seed started to shoot into Tenten's womb. Before he was finished, he sunk his teeth into her shoulder, causing her to howl in pleasure. The new sensation sent Tenten over the edge into her own orgasm. Naruto pulled out of Tenten and she slumped against the tree, as their fluids ran down her leg. Thank you, Naruto-kun, Tenten said as her eyes started to droop. Naruto smiled as he saw the 2 rings on her arm. Welcome to the family, Tenten-chan. I love you. I love you, too, Naruto-kun. Tenten mumbled as she fell asleep. Naruto smiled and picked her up. He cleaned her up, and in a flash her landed on top of her apartment. He quickly went in through the window and dropped her off on her bed. He tucked her in, and kissed her forehead. Good night, Tenten-chan. With that, Naruto vanished again. He had to get home and make dinner for Konan. Naruto walked up the steps to his apartment after dropping Tenten off at her home. Wanting to enjoy the nice night, he decided against using his Hiraishin to get all the way home. On the way to his home, several people stopped and thanked him, or offered him gifts. Naruto graciously accepted the thanks and gifts, but it still felt awkward for him to be receiving praise from the Uri people who used to despise him. Even after defeating his inner hatred, a part of Naruto was still wary of the villagers, waiting for them to turn on him any second. But before any of those thoughts could fester too long, Naruto is reminded of all his precious people. A smile graces his lips as images of all the important people in his life flash in his mind. Naruto let out a happy sigh as all of his girls flashed before his eyes. He envisioned a future where he was Hokage and he had a family with all the girls. He pictured coming home after a long day at work and being tackled by a small army of kids, all happy that their dad was home. Then after greeting all his children, he would make time for all his wives, and see how each of their days went. Then they would all sit down for dinner and laugh and joke like the loving family he knew they would be. Yeah, that's the life. Naruto thought happily as he walked into his apartment. As Naruto walked into the kitchen, he spotted Konan fast asleep on top of a pile of graded test papers. Naruto smiled as he gently picked Konan up and carried her into the bedroom. She let out a happy sigh and snuggled closer to Naruto as he carried her down the hall. Once in the bedroom, he gently placed her down onto the bed. He placed a kiss onto her forehead before he went into the kitchen to make dinner. Sakura was walking home after a long shift at the hospital, and her daily training with Karen. But as Sakura neared her home, she was hit with the smell of the nearby Ichiraku ramen stand. She couldn't resist the temptations and started walking towards the stand for a quick bite to eat. Damn it, Naruto, your stupid ramen cravings have rubbed off on me. Sakura thought as the stand came into view. I don't think it's all Naruto's fault. Remember, we're eating for 2 now. Inner Sakura said with a grin. Yeah, you're probably right. Sakura thought, a warm smile spreading across her face as she placed her hand on her stomach. Sakura lifted the flap and took a seat at the bar. Ah, Sakura, Ayame said cheerfully when she saw Sakura walk in. Hello, Ayame, how are you? I'm doing fine, but it's a little slow today. But it's always nice to see one of Naruto's girls in here. Quote. Sakura thanked Ayame and placed her order. So how's the pregnancy been going so far? Ayame said from the kitchen as she prepared Sakura's order. It's been going great so far. I've been having the usual mood swings and weird cravings, but Naruto and the other girls have been so supportive. Quote. Sakura smiled as she thought of how close her and the other girls had become over the past weeks. They were the closest things Sakura had to sisters. Well, since you're eating for 2, this one's on the house. Ayame said as she handed Sakura her order. Sakura smiled and thanked Ayame. She inhaled the ramen's heavenly aroma. Breaking apart her chopsticks, Sakura started to slurp and gorge on the ramen at a speed that would make Naruto jealous. After inhaling the ramen, Sakura slammed the empty bowl on the table with a happy smile on her face. Maybe Naruto did rub off on you. Inner Sakura said with a sweat drop. Sakura decided to ignore her inner self and ordered another bowl, one more couldn't hurt. As Sakura waited for Ayame to make her order, she heard someone enter the stand. She was going to ignore the newcomer. But she was surprised when the person called her name. Sakura. Sakura quickly swiveled around on her stool. She was surprised to see Temari standing there. But what shocked her was Temari's appearance. The Suna Kunoichi looked upset, and it looked as if she had been crying. Temari, what's wrong? Sakura said as she instantly stood up. It's nothing you have to worry about. Temari said as she slumped down onto a stool. Come on, Temari, talk to me, I'm your friend. Temari just sighed and looked down at the counter. I'll buy you some ramen. Sakura said, hoping to coax Temari with the offer of comfort food. Really? Of course. Ayame. Bring another bowl for Temari. Sakura yelled, earning a quick, sure thing, from Ayame. Now talk. Temari took a deep breath, but didn't look up from the counter. I broke up with Shikamaru. What? We've just been slowly drifting apart for a while now. What caused this? I loved Shika, I really did. But Kami, he is the laziest, most unmotivated son of a bitch I've ever met. He never wanted to go out and do anything, everything was just so troublesome for him. He'd rather laze around all day instead of going out on a date with me. I practically had to drag him around whenever we went out. A girl can only take that for so long, you know. So eventually I had enough. I confronted him, we had a big fight, and now I'm here. Sakura looked at Temari with a mix of sadness and pity. Just as Sakura was about to speak up, Ayame placed their orders in front of them. Temari muttered a quick thank you before she slowly started to eat her ramen. But she was stopped when she heard Sakura slam her empty bowl onto the counter, and let out a content sigh. Ah, that hit the spot. Quote. Temari just looked at Sakura wide-eyed. The only person she knew that could eat like that was Naruto. Whoa, Sakura, when did you get an appetite like Naruto's? Well, I guess my big baka rubbed off on me. Sakura said as her cheeks were tinged red. My big baka. Oh, you didn't hear, Sakura as said as her cheeks turned a deeper shade of red. Naruto and I are together. Again Temari went wide-eyed. She thought Sakura always had a thing for Sasuke. What about Sasuke? That was clearly the wrong thing to say. Because Sakura's eye hardened and she clenched her fists. He's dead, Sakura said angrily. And I would appreciate it if you never mentioned that bastard's name again. Sakura said a little more harshly than she intended. Oh, okay. Temari squeaked out. Okay, that is clearly a very taboo subject. Temari thought as she saw Sakura relaxing slightly. So how have things been going between you and Naruto? Temari asked, trying to change the subject. Sakura did a complete 180 as a smile spread across her face. Oh, it's been amazing so far. Naruto is such an amazing guy, Sakura said as she let out a dreamy sigh. But you should know I'm not the only one seeing Naruto. Hearing this caused Temari to quirk a blonde eyebrow. Tsunade-sama placed Naruto in a program called the CRA. This allows Naruto to have several wives to help restore his clans. I was a little hesitant at first, but now I love it. All the girls are like sisters to me, and we've all become so close. Quote. Temari listened to Sakura speak with a twinge of jealousy. She noticed how happy Sakura looked when she talked about Naruto and their relationship. It's something that she wanted. But then Sakura said something that made Temari's head shoot up. A few of the girls and me are even pregnant, Sakura said as she placed a hand on her stomach. I can't wait to start a family with Naruto. That's what sent Temari over the edge. She placed her head into her hands as she started to cry. Instantly Sakura was up and wrapping an arm around Temari. What's wrong, Temari? Temari sniffled a few times and looked at Sakura. I want what you have. I want to find a guy who will treat me right. Someone I can love as much as they'd love me. Someone who is fun and loves life. Temari said as she placed her head back into her hands. Sakura looked at Temari with a frown. She knew Temari deserved to be happy, and she knew just the guy to give her that happiness. Well, why don't you give Naruto a try? Temari's head shot up when she heard that. What did you say? I said why don't you give Naruto a chance, I bet he can make you happy. Plus you'd be part of a loving family. Quote. Temari looked down at her ramen and sighed. I don't know, Sakura. Hey, just think about, okay. But let me tell you, Naruto's a great guy, and he'd treat you right. Tamari looked and saw Sakura smiling brightly at her. This caused a small smile to form on Tamari's face. All right, Sakura, I'll think about it. Tamari said as she stood up and hugged Sakura. Just follow your heart, Tamari. Sakura said as she returned the hug. I'll try, Tamari said as she started to tear up again. Well, I've got to get back to Suna. I'll see you soon, Sakura, and I'll think about what you said. With that, Tamari left the stand and headed towards the village gates. Sakura waved goodbye and turned back to sit down. She spotted Tamari's unfinished ramen and her eyes lit up. Well, if she's not gonna finish it, Sakura said as she sat down and started devouring her third bowl of ramen. Naruto had just finished making dinner when he heard a few soft knocks at his door. Quickly turning off the oven, Naruto walked over to the door. When he opened the door, he was surprised to see Hinata standing there. Oh, Hinata-chan, how good to see you, Naruto said as he smiled warmly. Hello, Naruto-kun, Hinata said timidly as she lightly shuffled from foot to foot. Well, what can I do for you, Hinata-chan? Quote, I was wondering if you wanted to go on a walk with me. I have something I need to talk to you about, Hinata said as her face took on a pink tinge. Sure thing, Hinata-chan, I'll be right back. Quote, Naruto walked into the kitchen and wrote a note for Konan in case she woke up while he was gone. Then he grabbed his jacket and walked back to the door. Alright, Hinata-chan, let's go, Naruto said as he offered Hinata his hand. Hinata's blush deepened as she grabbed Naruto's hand. They walked down the steps into the night. While they were walking, they talked about various things, but Naruto noticed that Hinata was starting to get very nervous. Eventually they found themselves on top of the Hokage monument. They both sat down and admired the view, which overlooked the entire village. Naruto looked over and noticed that Hinata was nervously rubbing her arm as she kept shooting glances at him. Hinata-chan, what's wrong? Naruto asked as he scooted closer and wrapped an arm around her. Hinata sighed and leaned her head against his. It's just. I'm so sorry, Naruto-kun, Hinata said as she fought off tears. Naruto just looked at Hinata as if she had grown a second head. What could you possibly be sorry for, Hinata-chan? I have not seen you do one bad thing since I've known you. When we were little. I used to follow you around and watch you. I got confidence from seeing you be strong, Hinata said as she choked back a sob. But whenever you really needed someone to care for you, I wasn't there. I was behind a tree or in some alley, just watching you. I never did anything to comfort or help you through your pain. Hinata was now crying openly into Naruto's chest. He just sat there and stroked her long dark hair, trying to soothe her. After a few minutes her sobs died down. Hinata-chan, you don't have to be sorry. All that happened years ago, it's in the past now. But what matters now, is that you're here for me now. Don't dwell on the past, Hinata, because I hate to see you cry, Naruto said as he cupped Hinata's chin. They both stared into each other's eyes. His piercing blue eyes gazed into her pale orbs. Suddenly they were leaning closer, and Naruto captured her lips with his own. It was a slow kiss at first, but it was quickly growing more heated and passionate as the seconds went by. Eventually Hinata found herself straddling Naruto as they kept their passionate lip lock. She was subconsciously grinding against Naruto's growing erection. Hinata was the one to break their kiss as a soft moan escaped her lips. Naruto-kun, I want you to make love to me, Hinata said as she looked into his eyes. Are you sure, Hinata-chan? Yes, I want us to be one at last, Hinata said as she kissed him again. Naruto smiled into the kiss and flipped them over so that now he was on top. He broke the kiss and removed Hinata's jacket as she steadied her shaky hands and unzipped his. Naruto went wide-eyed when he saw Hinata's large S straining her shirt. Holy shit, they're almost as big as Bachan's, Naruto thought as he slowly took off Hinata's shirt. Now the only thing keeping Naruto from Hinata's S was a lavender-colored bra. Naruto looked at Hinata and she nodded, so he gently took off the bra, exposing her S to the night air. Naruto marveled at Hinata's S. He was right, they were almost as big as Tsunade's, but they were also fairly perky as well. Naruto reached out and started to mage one of her S. While one hand maged A, he latched his mouth to the other and started to suck on Hinata's erect nipple. When Naruto started to play with Hinata's S, she let out a loud throaty moan. Something inside Hinata was coming out. Something she tried desperately to repress and push away. Very few people knew this, but sweet innocent Hinata was a MIV pervert. She constantly tried to suppress her perversion. But with Naruto making her feel so good, her inner pervert was finally unleashed. Oh, Naruto-sama, that feels so good. Hinata moaned out as she pressed Naruto further into her S. Naruto smirked as he continued to play with Hinata's S for a few more minutes. But Naruto decided to get things moving again. So while he was playing with Hinata's S, he s a hand into Hinata's pants and started to stroke her wet womanhood. When Hinata felt Naruto making her wet, she let out a lewd moan. Yes, Naruto-sama, don't stop. Naruto obliged and continued his ministrations. Hinata started to grind against Naruto's hand. She quickly reached her climax and let out a loud moan. Hinata was now panting in the afterglow of her orgasm. She saw Naruto grinning at her, so she decided to return the favor. Naruto was shocked when Hinata suddenly flipped them over. Hinata-chan, what are you? Whoa, Naruto said as Hinata suddenly ripped down his pants and boxers, exposing his throbbing manhood. Naruto-sama, you're so hard, let me help you with that. Hinata cooed as she gave Naruto's a long lick. Naruto let out a long groan as Hinata took his in her mouth. Wasting no time, Hinata started to bob her head up and down on his shaft. What Hinata's mouth couldn't reach, she stroked with her hand. Naruto's hands were digging into the ground as he tried to fight off his coming orgasm. He loved the feeling of Hinata's mouth on his shaft, and he wanted it to continue. But when Hinata swirled her tongue around the head of his shaft, he lost it and exploded in her mouth. Hinata moaned when she felt Naruto's seed shoot into her mouth. She greedily swallowed it all, trying to get every last drop. Naruto was now in a slight daze as he panted lightly. He was shaken from his daze when he felt Hinata's body snake up his. She started to rub her wet against his hardening. Naruto-sama, Hinata cooed into his ear. It's time we get to the main course. Of course, Hinata-chan, Naruto said as she grabbed his shaft and guided it to her. With a deep intake of breath, she lowered herself onto him. Without warning, Hinata fully sat down on Naruto's, causing both of them to gasp. Hinata was overcome with pleasure as she felt Naruto fill her up completely. Almost instantly the pain was gone and Hinata started to bounce up and down on Naruto's. Naruto was surprised to see Hinata starting so suddenly, but he recovered and started to meet her bounces with his own thrusts. The sound of their slapping flesh filled the area. Oh, Naruto-sama, faster, harder, Hinata yelled out as she stopped bouncing, allowing Naruto to pound into her rapidly. Hinata was now biting her lip to suppress her moans, but a loud one escaped when she felt Naruto slap her. Yes, I've been a bad girl, Naruto-sama, and I need to be spanked. Hinata yelled as Naruto continued to slap her. Naruto was loving the feeling of Hinata's tight wrapping around his. But he was rapidly reaching his limit. After another 5 minutes of intense thrusting and 2 more orgasms from Hinata, Naruto had reached his limit. Hinata-chan, I'm gonna come. Naruto said through clenched teeth. Oh, Naruto-sama, I'm almost there too. Quote, Naruto sat up and chid Hinata to his chest as she grinded against his. Just as Naruto released his seed, he bit down into Hinata's neck. This caused her to scream out in pleasure. Yes, Hinata screamed as she was sent over the edge into her own orgasm. Naruto lay panting with Hinata on his chest. He smiled when he saw the 2 bands form on her left arm. He gently kissed the top of her head and stroked her hair. After a few minutes, Naruto tried to get up, but he felt Hinata push him back down. You aren't going anywhere, Naruto-sama, we aren't anywhere near done yet. Hinata said with a lecherous grin on her face. Naruto groaned as the harsh sunlight hit his face. When he tried to lift his arm to block the sunlight, he felt something holding it down. He turned his head to see Hinata still asleep with his arm tightly in her grasp. Naruto's drank in Hinata's form, that was until he realized where they were. Oh shit, we're still on top of the Hokage monument. Naruto thought in panic, but then his face turned white as he remembered something else. Quote exclamation mark. Lee runs through this area on his daily laps around the village. As if on cue, Naruto heard a shout from Lee off in the distance. Yosh, I must keep running to show Guy Sensei that my flames of youth are not burning out. Just as Lee came into sight, Naruto quickly grabbed their clothes, brought Hinata close, and then used his Hiraishin to teleport them to his apartment. With a soft thump, Naruto landed on his couch with Hinata still in his arms. Wow, that was close. Naruto breathed out as he wiped the sweat from his brow with his free hand. When Naruto looked down, he saw that Hinata was still fast asleep. How is she still asleep? Well, after everything we did last night, I shouldn't be too surprised. I'm still sore in places I didn't know I had. Naruto thought as he remembered the exhausting and pleasurable night they both had. After 3.5 hours of non-stop, Hinata finally ped out after a particularly powerful orgasm. Naruto silently thanked every deity he could think of as he held Hinata close. He honestly didn't know how much more he could take. I really hope it's not like that every time we have. Naruto thought as he carefully dressed Hinata and put on some fresh clothes. After Hinata was dressed, Naruto quickly checked to see if Konan was home. He found her sound asleep right where he left her the previous night. Naruto then went back into his room and picked up Hinata bridal style before he teleported to the Hyuga estates. He snuck past the guards at the gates, then he crept through the halls. When Naruto eventually reached Hinata's room, he silently opened and closed the door. But just as he was about to turn around, a cough made him go stiff. Care to explain to me why you're sneaking into Hinata-sama's room with her asleep in your arms? Quote. Naruto slowly turned around to see Neji sitting on the bed glaring at him. Can I please put her down? It will be awkward to talk to you with me holding her. Naruto asked as he started to sweat. Fine, but if you try to run off, I'll paralyze you for life. Neji said in an emotionless tone as he stood up. Naruto quickly walked over and gently placed Hinata in her bed. When Naruto turned around, he saw Neji standing at the door waiting for him. Taking a deep breath, he walked out into the hall with Neji. So I'll ask again, why were you sneaking into Hinata-sama's room with her asleep in your arms? Neji asked in a slightly dangerous tone. Oh, we were up late last night, and she fell asleep at my place. When I woke up, I didn't want to wake her, so I carried her home. Naruto explained as he rubbed the back of his head nervously. What exactly were you doing that kept you up so late? Neji said as his eyes narrowed. Naruto really started to sweat now. We were, oh man, we were. Naruto, if you don't spit it out, I'll go get Hiashi-sama, and let me warn you, he can be far less understanding than me. Quote. Hearing that drained all the color from Naruto's face. Shit, I might as well tell him. Naruto thought as he took a deep breath. Hinata-chan and I had last night. Naruto said as he prepared himself for the worst. Neji's eyes widened for a moment before he took a deep breath. Was Hinata-sama the one to initiate this, or was it you? It was Hinata. We were on top of the Hokage monument. Then she started apologizing for something that wasn't really a problem. Then we started kissing and one thing led to another, and you know the rest. Well, I guess if it was Hinata-sama's wish, I cannot be upset with you. Neji said with a sigh. Really? Yes, Hinata-sama is not a child anymore, and she can make her own decisions. So if she wants to have intercourse with her boyfriend, she can, Neji said calmly before he grabbed Naruto by the collar. But remember what I said. If you hurt Hinata-sama, you'll have to deal with me. Neji said as he released Naruto. Neji then turned and walked down the hall. As soon as Neji was out of sight, Naruto let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. Oh my Kami, that was too close. Naruto thought as he silently made his way out of the Hyuga estates. Well, Konan-chan is probably still asleep, as well as the other girls, and Ryazetsu-chan won't be back from her mission until later. Might as well get some training in. With that thought, Naruto made his way towards the training grounds. Training Ground 7. Naruto entered a clearing in the center of the training grounds. He channeled chakra into his left eye and activated his Rinnegan. Okay, I can make a Rasengan with all 5 basic chakra natures. So let's see if I can combine some of them. Naruto thought as he started to form a Suiten Rasengan. Let's try Hyoten first. Naruto started to put some Futon chakra into the Suiten Rasengan. Slowly the Rasengan started to freeze over, but just before it completely froze over, it exploded. The explosion sent Naruto flying backwards, covered in frost. Okay, put in way too much wind chakra. Naruto said to himself as he stood up and shook the frost out of his hair. Okay, let's try this again. Quote, again Naruto created a sweetened Rasengan, but this time he drastically slowed down the amount of wind chakra he put in at once. The Rasengan started to freeze over, and once it was completely frozen over, Naruto cut off the wind chakra he was pushing into the Rasengan. Naruto gazed at the pure white Rasengan that was slowly spinning in his hand, and completely surrounded by frost. Let's try this thing out. Naruto picked out a training dummy and ran towards it. He slammed the Hyoden Rasengan into the dummy. The spot where the Rasengan hit immediately started to freeze over. Then the ice started to spread until eventually the whole dummy was encased in a block of ice. Wow, that is awesome, Naruto said as he marveled at the frozen over dummy. Okay, next let's try Rantan. Naruto formed a Raiden Rasengan, the ball of lightning tingling his hand with small jolts of electricity. Okay, now the tricky part, Naruto said as he started to pump wind chakra into the Rasengan. But after almost a minute nothing changed. What gives? Naruto yelled as he pumped a large amount of wind chakra into the Rasengan. Suddenly the Rasengan transformed into a miniature storm cloud. No way. I guess the problem was, I wasn't putting in enough wind chakra, Naruto said as the watched the pitch-black Rasengan rapidly spin in his hand, giving off random jolt of lightning every few seconds. He was literally holding a storm cloud in his hand. Naruto then turned his gaze to another training dummy, and a wicked grin spread across his face. He charged forward and thrust the Rantan Rasengan into the dummy's chest. At first it seemed like a normal Rasengan, the dummy was sent flying backwards. But after a few seconds the Rasengan exploded, encasing the dummy in a storm cloud. It wasn't the sight of the storm cloud that caught Naruto off guard. It was the sound. It sounded as if Naruto was standing in the middle of a full-blown thunderstorm. Naruto had to cover his ears from the sheer volume. When the cloud finally dissipated, the dummy was a charred mess. As Naruto approached the dummy, he could feel the electricity still lingering in the air. Kami, that is one scary jutsu. That's easily one of my powerful jutsu, Naruto said as he scratched his head. What next? What about, Shoten? The only nature I know that goes into Shoten is Doden. Well, let's start there and add elements and see what happens. Naruto formed a Doden Rasengan. The Rasengan looked like a spinning ball of dirt in Naruto's hand. Okay, let's try Sweeten first. Naruto pushed water chakra into the Rasengan, but it turned to mud and fell apart. That's not gonna work, so how about Futon? Again Naruto formed a Doden Rasengan, but this time he pushed wind chakra into it. The Rasengan started to spin rapidly before it exploded and showered Naruto in dirt. Okay, definitely not wind. Let's try Kaden. Naruto quickly formed another Rasengan. This time, however, when he started to add fire chakra, the Rasengan started to crystallize. After a few more seconds of pumping chakra, a new pink crystalline Rasengan was spinning in Naruto's hand. Whoa! Naruto exclaimed as he marveled at the beautiful pink sphere spinning in his palm. Let's try this one out. Naruto picked out a dummy and slammed the Shoten Rasengan into the dummy's chest. Much like the Hyoden Rasengan, the Shoten Rasengan encased the dummy in a chunk of solid pink crystal. Just like Gurren. I could use this to capture and transport people, Naruto thought as he swiftly kicked the crystal, causing it to shatter to pieces. What next? I can already use Yoden and Jiden fairly well thanks to Son Goku and Shukaku's chakra. So all that leaves is Mokuden. I wonder how this is gonna turn out. Naruto formed another Doden Rasengan. Okay, I gotta find the right amount of water chakra to put into the jutsu or it will just turn to mud again. After over a dozen failed attempts, Naruto still hadn't found the right amount of water chakra to put into the Rasengan. Again he formed another Doden Rasengan, but every time Naruto put water chakra into the Rasengan it fell apart into a pile of mud. Damn it! Naruto yelled as yet another failed Rasengan fell apart. Why isn't this working? ? Naruto let out an exasperated sigh as he took a seat on the ground. He was panting slightly from the amount of chakra he had been using. As Naruto sat on the ground, a thought came to his mind. Alright, let's try this again. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Suddenly the field was flooded with hundreds of Naruto clones. Alright, we're trying to make a Mokuten Rasengan. But I can't find the right balance of earth and water chakra. So I figured if we all tried different variations that it'd make this whole process a lot quicker. You guys know what to do, so let's get to work. Every clone nodded and started making their own Rasengans. After almost an hour of failed attempts, Naruto heard one of his clones yell out, "I got it. Holy shit, I finally got it." Naruto scrambled over to the clone who had yelled out, but when he found the clone, what he saw didn't impress him. "Are you sure that's it? It still looks like a ball of mud." The real Naruto said to the clone. "Yes, Yubaka, just watch it for a second," the clone said. As Naruto watched the Rasengan spin, he was surprised to see bits of green appear every now and then. I think you're right. We did it. We finally did it," Naruto yelled, causing all the clones to let out a cheer. "So how did you do it?" Naruto asked the clone. The clone looked nervous as he answered the question. I just started with Suiden Rasengan instead of a Doden one. And I put Earth Chakra into the Suiden Rasengan." The real Naruto's eye twitched when he heard this. "Are you kidding me?" Naruto yelled as he fell to the ground. It was as simple as that. Why am I so stupid? I wasted so much time for something so simple. After a couple more minutes of yelling with plenty of cussing, Naruto dispelled his clones and made a Mokuden Rasengan. Son of a bitch, it was that simple. Naruto yelled as he rammed the Rasengan into a target dummy. But this utter disappointment, nothing different happened. The target was just sent flying back from the force of the jutsu, much like a regular Rasengan. Oh, what the hell? It doesn't even do anything cool. Naruto whined as he formed another Mokuden Rasengan. Stupid jutsu. Naruto yelled as he slammed the Rasengan into the ground. But to Naruto's surprise, the ground started to shake. Holy shit! Naruto exclaimed as trees started to sprout out of the ground all around him. Naruto had created a miniature forest surrounding himself. Okay, it's not really an offensive Rasengan. Don't know when I'll ever need to create a mini forest, but hey, at least I got this thing down. Just before Naruto could start walking of the training grounds, he heard someone clapping behind him. Very impressive, Naruto. I see your skills with a Rinnegan have improved greatly. Naruto spun around and saw Konan standing behind him. Konan-chan, it's so good to see you. Naruto said as he hugged her, which she immediately returned. How long have you been watching? Oh, for a while. I came along right around when you first started. You must have been too focused and not sensed me watching you. So what are you doing here? I thought you were working at the academy today. Naruto said as he released Konan from the hug. Well, I took those few days off like you said, Konan explained as her eyes were suddenly filled with lust. And I was hoping we could spend that alone time together. She said as she rubbed Naruto's chest. I see what you mean, Naruto said with a grin. Well, let's head somewhere a little more comfortable. Start. If you don't want to read it, skip it. Naruto suddenly grabbed Konan around the waist and teleported them into his bedroom. Immediately Konan was on him, capturing his lips with her own. Again fireworks went off in Konan's head as their lips locked. He quickly forced his tongue into her mouth, dominating the kiss. Konan let out a moan as Naruto started to run his hands over her body. Konan broke the kiss and sat up. She quickly unzipped her Jonin vest, and tossed it aside. Following her lead, Naruto stripped off his jacket, and tossed it. Then Naruto watched as Konan lifted up her shirt, showing her large bra-covered S and pierced belly button. Pierced belly button, I like it. Naruto said with a perverted grin. He then removed his shirt. Naruto then captured Konan's lip again. He started leading them towards the bed. Eventually her legs hit the bed and he gently pushed her onto it. Naruto straddled Konan and kissed her again. As they made out, Naruto's hand down her body, and into her pants. He started to mage her through her soaked panties. Konan let out a throaty moan as Naruto stopped maging her and inserted a few finger into her. Naruto then started to thrust his fingers into Konan's womanhood. She started to grind against his hand, trying to force his fingers deeper. Oh, Naruto, that feels so good. Don't stop, I'm so close. Konan moaned out as she felt her orgasm approaching. Then come for me, Konan-chan. Naruto whispered into her ear. The feeling of his breath on her ear sent Konan over the edge. She let out a loud scream as she orgasmed all over Naruto's hand. Naruto brought his hand out and licked Konan's juices of his hand, causing her to shiver in pleasure at tea. He sighed. Why don't you show me those beautiful S you've been hiding, Konan-chan? Naruto said as he whispered into her ear again. Conan shivered at his tone and reached to unclasp her blue bra. She quickly discarded the bra. Conan's S were large, almost as big as Hinata's, and another perverted grin spread across Naruto's face when he saw that her nipples were pierced as well. Pierced nipples, now I really like that, Naruto said, causing Conan to blush. Quickly Naruto reached out, started maging one while he sucked on the other one. This caused Conan to let out a loud moan, as pleasure shot through her system. But she wanted to get to the main event. She was ready, and she wanted it now. So Conan gently pushed Naruto away from her S, much to his disappointment. Naruto, I want to skip all this and I want you to make love to me, Conan said as she rubbed Naruto's erection through his pants. Naruto let out a moan when he felt Conan maging him. Okay Conan-chan, anything you want. Naruto quickly pulled down his pants and boxers, just as Conan pulled down her pants and panties. Conan laid on her back as Naruto straddled her. You ready? Naruto asked as he looked into her amber eyes. Yes, I've never been more ready for anything in my life. Just be gentle, it's my first time. This surprised Naruto, but he nodded and captured Conan's lips again. As they kissed, he slowly pushed into her. Conan winced at the sudden intrusion, but as more of him filled her, the pain was quickly replaced with pleasure. When Naruto was fully inside her, he held still for a few moments, letting her adjust to his size. Okay Naruto, you can move now. Naruto nodded and started to pull out of her. Conan whined at the sudden loss of the feeling of fullness. But she let out a loud moan when Naruto powerfully thrust back into her. Yes, Naruto, that feels amazing. Faster. Harder. Conan yelled, spurring Naruto on to please her. Naruto picked up the pace and started rapidly thrusting into Conan's wet. After a few minutes pounding, Naruto was surprised when Conan flipped him over. She was now riding him. He watched, mesmerized by her large bouncing S. Naruto started to meet Conan's bounces with his own thrusts. This caused Conan to scream out in pleasure. After a few more minutes, they were both nearing their release. Conan-chan, I'm gonna come soon. Naruto moaned out as Conan increased her bouncing. Ooh, I'm close too. Naruto, come inside me. I want to be like the other girls. I want to start a family with you. Are you sure, Conan-chan? Naruto asked as he slowed down and looked into her eyes. Of course Naruto, I want to be yours forever. With that, Conan kissed Naruto, and they both went back to their fast pace. Moments later, Conan reached the edge and exploded around Naruto's shaft. This in turn sent Naruto over the edge. He quickly broke the kiss and bit into Conan's neck. The feeling of Naruto biting her and his seed entering her womb caused her to have another orgasm. Naruto spotted the new rings on Conan's arm and smiled. Welcome to the family, Conan-chan. Naruto said as he kissed the top of her head. That was amazing, Naruto. Conan breathed out as she caught her breath. Yes it was. Naruto said as he held her close. So you ready for round 2? Conan said with a grin, which Naruto happily returned. End. 2 hours later, Naruto laid in his bed, ching Conan's form to his chest as she slept. He was staring at the ceiling trying to catch some sleep himself. But just before he could nod off, he heard a knock at his. Naruto gently got out of bed and quickly put on some clothes. He opened the door and was surprised to see Shikamaru standing there. Shikamaru? Naruto asked as the pineapple-haired boy walked past him and took a seat on his couch. Sure, come in. Sue, what's up? Naruto asked as he took a seat across from Shikamaru. Tamari and I broke up, Shikamaru said as he buried his head in his hands. What happened? We had a really bad fight last night. We both said some really awful things, and she called things off between us. She kept saying how I was too lazy, and never wanted to do anything, Shikamaru said as he sighed ed his eyes. I guess I can't be too mad at her. She did have a point. We rarely went out, and every time we did I wasn't the most enthused person around. So I can't blame her for getting upset. Shit man, I'm sorry. I really thought you two had a good thing going, Naruto said, trying to console his friend. But before Naruto could continue, Shikamaru cut him off. But that's not the main reason I'm here. Huh, then why are you here? Quote, yesterday after Tamari and I had our fight, I went for a walk to blow off some steam. But when I was walking, I pet Ichiraku. Inside I heard Sakura and Tamari talking, Shikamaru said, causing Naruto's eyes to widen. Temari was really upset, and Sakura calmed her down. But as they talked, Sakura tried to convince Temari to give you a chance. Listen, Shikamaru, if you want me to stay away from Temari, I will. Naruto was stopped when Shikamaru held up his hand. No. If Temari wants to give you a chance, then that's her decision. But if you do end up together, just please take good care of her. I still love Temari and I want her to be happy, and I seriously believe she'll be happiest with you. So please just treat her right. Naruto stood up and hugged Shikamaru. Of course, man, I'll treat her like a queen. Naruto said as he patted Shikamaru on the back. Thanks, Naruto, Shikamaru said as a few tears escaped his eyes. Quickly wiping the tears away, Shikamaru broke the hug and walked to the door. Well, I have to report to Hokage-sama. Oh well, tell Kakashi-sensei I said hi. Sure, and just remember what I said, take good care of her. Quote, of course Shikamaru, I'll see you soon. Shikamaru smiled and with a wave he walked out the door. When the door closed, Naruto sighed and sat back down on the couch. He turned his head and looked at the clock on the wall. Ryazetsu should be back from her mission soon. Might as well head to the gates and wait for her. Naruto stood up and wrote a note for Konan, then left for the main gates. 1 hour later, Naruto was sitting on a rooftop that was adjacent to the front gates. He drummed his finger on the rooftop as he waited for Ryazetsu. Suddenly 3 figures walked through the front gates. Naruto quickly noticed that it was Ryazetsu and her team. Ryazetsu turned and said something to her teammates, then Ryazetsu's teammates quickly dispersed in opposite directions, leaving Ryazetsu alone. Seeing that she was finally alone, Naruto jumped down to greet her. Ryazetsu sighed as she watched her teammates run off. Kami, that was such a boring mission. Absolutely nothing happened, Ryazetsu thought as she started walking towards Naruto's apartment. I just want to get home and see. Quote. Ryazetsu's thoughts were interrupted when she saw Naruto land in front of her. Instantly her eyes lit up, as she, the man she loved, smiled at her. Ryazetsu-chan, it's so good to have you home. Naruto said as Ryazetsu ran forward and pulled Naruto into a peonate kiss. Kami, I missed you so much. Ryazetsu said as she hugged Naruto. Well, come on, let's head home. Naruto wrapped his arm around Ryazetsu's waist and walked her towards his apartment. After a brisk walk, Naruto and Ryazetsu arrived back at his home. Konan-chan, we're back. Naruto yelled, but he received no reply. He walked into the kitchen and spotted a note on the table. He picked up the letter and noticed it was Konan's handwriting. Dear Naruto, Sakura came by and she said she needed to speak with me. So that's where I am, I'll be home later. P.S. Tell Ryazetsu I said hi. Love, Konan. Well, I guess Konan won't be back for a while. So what do you want to do, Ryazetsu? Naruto turned around and was immediately pulled into a fiery kiss. The kiss intensified and Naruto's tongue met Ryazetsu's. Naruto was surprised when he felt Ryazetsu start to grind against his thigh. Suddenly Ryazetsu broke the kiss and he looked into her pale rippled eyes. While we were on our mission, I had a lot of free time. A lot of time to do some fantasizing, Ryazetsu said, rubbed his muscles through his shirt. Kami, Naruto, I want you so bad right now. Naruto grinned as he picked her up, causing her to let out a surprised, eep. Single quote. Well, you have me, Naruto said as he quickly brought them into his bedroom. Start. He practically threw Ryazetsu onto his bed. Instantly he was on her. They wasted no time as they quickly stripped their clothes. Naruto marveled at Ryazetsu's toned and athletic body. Much like Sakura, Ryazetsu's S weren't the biggest, but they fit her body perfectly, and they still had him slightly drooling. While Naruto was ogling her, Ryazetsu was drinking in his form. She was getting wetter as eyes raked up and down his toned and muscular body. She nearly came when she saw his erect. I was everything she had imagined and then some. They came together again, and Ryazetsu quickly straddled Naruto's. Wasting no time, Ryazetsu pushed the head inside her, dripping. She let out a series of moans as inch after inch of Naruto's shaft entered her. Finally she had Naruto's entire shaft in her, and she loved the feeling of fullness it gave her. After a few moments to adjust, Ryazetsu slowly lifted herself up and lowered herself back down. She went agonizingly slow at first, and Naruto grit his teeth as he held back from grabbing her hips, roughly ing her. Then much to his relief Ryozetsu started to pick up the pace, causing both of them to moan out from the increase in pleasure. Oh, Naruto, this is everything I imagined, and so much more. Ryozetsu moaned out as Naruto started to thrust into her. More Naruto. More. Ryozetsu yelled, wanting to increase her pleasure. Grinning, Naruto grabbed Ryozetsu and positioned them, so that she was on all fours and he was pounding into her from behind. Ryozetsu lewdly moaned as her pleasure spiked from this new position, which allowed Naruto to hit deeper into her. Kami, Naruto, you're amazing. Ryozetsu yelled out as an orgasm racked her body. The feeling of Ryozetsu's inner walls gripping him tighter brought Naruto close to his own orgasm. Ryozetsu-chan, I'm almost there. Naruto grunted out between thrusts. I'm close again to Naruto. Come inside me, make me yours. Are you want this, Ryozetsu? Yes. Ryozetsu moaned out as she turned to look at Naruto. I want to spend the rest of my life with you and the other girls. Naruto nodded and grabbed Ryozetsu and pulled her close against his chest. He pulled her into a kiss as his orgasm rapidly approached. With a grunt, Naruto broke the kiss and bit into Ryozetsu's neck, as his seed shot into her womb. Ryozetsu screamed out in a mix of pain and pleasure as another orgasm coursed through her body. Naruto held Ryozetsu close as they rode their orgasms. He buried his face into her white hair, and inhaled her scent. Slowly he pulled out of her, causing her to whine at the sudden loss. Kami, Naruto, that was the greatest thing I've ever felt. Ryozetsu said as she was panting slightly. Yeah, that was amazing. Naruto breathed out as he spotted the 2 rings on her arm. Suddenly Naruto felt Ryozetsu flip them over so that she was back on top. I'm ready to go again, if you are. I'm always ready to go again for you girls. Naruto said with a perverted grin. End. Suiden water release. Hyoten ice release. Futon wind release. Ranton storm release. Shoten crystal release. Raiden lightning release. Doden earth release. Kaden fire release. Yoden lava release. Jiden magnet release. Mokuden wood release. Naruto sat awake in his bed as the early morning sunlight streamed in through the window. As he sat there, he ched Konan and Ryozetsu close to his body as they both slept. Sometime during the night, Konan had crept into the bedroom, and joined Ryozetsu and him as they slept. Naruto looked at both women and smiled when his gaze landed on the rings on their arms. He ched them closer to his body as he stared out the window. As he stared out the window, he thought about how his life was going to change in less than a year. He could already picture his family, a big new home, and hopefully he'd finally achieve his dream of becoming Hokage. Naruto was shaken from his thoughts when he heard soft knocking at his door. He quietly got out of bed, gently laying Konan and Ryozetsu back down onto the bed. Quickly throwing on a shirt, he made his way over to the door. His eyes lit up when he saw his first love, Sakura, standing in the doorway. Sakura-chan, good morning, Naruto said excitedly as he leaned forward and gave Sakura a long good morning kiss. When they broke the kiss, Sakura had a slightly dazed look. She shook her head and regained her composure. Good morning, Naruto. I came to get Konan, Ryozetsu, and you. Sakura said, still a little dazed from the kiss. Ah, come on Sakura-chan, it's so early. Naruto whined before a grin spread across his face. Why don't you come back to bed with me? Sakura immediately became flustered, and was seriously considering taking Naruto up on his offer. But she shook her head again, wiping her mind of her perverted thoughts. No, as tempting that offer is, Tsunade Shisho wants to do a checkup on me and the other girls, so you're coming too, Sakura said sternly as she cracked her knuckles. Or do I have to drag you there by your ear? Quote, no ma'am, Naruto said as he ran back to his room to wake Konan and Ryozetsu. After some coaxing, they were both out of bed and dressed. As they walked towards the hospital, Konan and Ryozetsu kept mumbling about how sore they were and that they couldn't keep up with Naruto's stamina. During the walk, Naruto noticed several men blatantly ogling Sakura, Konan, and Ryozetsu. Naruto quickly growled at them and shot them a glare that promised a slow and painful death if they continued to stare at his girls. The men quickly averted their gaze, trying to stop their knees from shaking. Sakura giggled at Naruto's possessive behavior, but she also found it extremely alluring. After that incident, the rest of the walk towards the hospital was relatively quiet. Sakura led them through the hospital's sterile white halls. All the nurses and doctors would greet her and show her great respect. Eventually they reached a room near the end of the hospital. Opening the door, Naruto spotted the rest of his girls along with Tsunade, Shizune, Karen, and Kakashi. "Morning everyone," Naruto said as he gave each of his girls a kiss. "Good to see you, Gaki," Tsunade said as she pulled Naruto into a hug, smothering him in her mibs. "Morning Naruto-kun," Shizune chirped as she gave Naruto a quick hug. "Hey you knucklehead," Karen said as she gave Naruto a tight hug. "Good morning Naruto," Kakashi said as Naruto shook his former sensei's hand, trying to show a little more respect than usual. "So why'd you call us all here, Bachan?" Naruto asked as he took a seat next to his girls. "Well, I want to do a checkup on the girls, plus it will be good practice for Karen. So I'll need you girls to come up one by one, Karen, and I'll give you a checkup." Quote. "So who's going first?" Karen said cheerfully, wanting to see how much her training had paid off. "I'll go," Tenten said as she walked up. Karen's hands started to glow green as she inspected Tenten's body. "Okay, the baby seems healthy, and is growing normally," Karen said as she stepped back, allowing Tsunade to step forward. Tsunade's hands started to glow green as she started her inspection. "Good Karen, you're correct, and you didn't miss a thing," Tsunade said, causing Karen's eyes to light up from the Sanin's praise. Next Anko and Ino came up and got the similar reports. When Konan and Ryazetsu came up, Karen just sensed for the new chakra signatures instead of performing an inspection. She quickly confirmed that both women were indeed pregnant, leading both of them to hug Naruto in sheer joy. Hinata was the next up, and when Karen started her inspection, her brow furrowed. "Tsunade-sama, can you check this for a second?" Karen said as she stepped back to allow Tsunade to step forward. Tsunade came forward and started her inspection on Hinata. After a few moments, Tsunade's eyes widened before she looked Hinata in the eyes. "Congratulations Hinata, it appears you're going to have twins." "TT twins," Hinata stuttered out before she fainted. Luckily Naruto caught her and set her down on a chair. "Are you 100% sure about that, Shisho?" Sakura asked, slightly jealous that Hinata was going to have twins. "Yes Sakura, I'm sure. Hinata is going to have twins." "Well, that sure was a surprise," Naruto said as he held Hinata's hand. "Okay Sakura, you're up," Karen said, motioning Sakura forward. When Sakura walked forward, Karen started her inspection. Again after a few moments Karen's eyes widened. "Tsunade-sama, I need you to check this one too." Sakura got excited when she heard this. Was she going to have twins too? Tsunade stepped forward and started examining her student. Moments later Tsunade started chuckling. "I don't believe it," Tsunade said as she pulled her apprentice into a hug. "Shisho, what's going on?" Sakura said as Tsunade let her go. "What's going on Sakura? Is that you're going to have triplets?" This caused everyone's eyes to widen. Triplets. Sakura breathed out before she too ped out. Again Naruto caught her and gently set her down on another chair. "Well, congratulations Gaki, you've got 10 kids heading your way." Hearing this caused Naruto's face to light up. "Yada!" Naruto yelled as he bounced around the room. He hugged everyone in the room except Sakura and Hinata, who were still ped out. After a few more minutes of giddy excitement, Naruto calmed down, and Kakashi walked up to him. "Congratulations Naruto, but I need you to meet me in my office in an hour. I have an important mission for you." With that, Kakashi patted his student on the shoulder and walked out of the room. "Well, if we're all done here, I'm heading off. See you soon Naruto." "Come along Shizune," Tsunade said as she walked out of the room. "Goodbye Naruto-kun and congratulations," Shizune said as hugged Naruto one more time before she hurried after her master. "Well Naruto, I have to get back to work, we'll have to get together sometime," Karen said as she kissed Naruto on the cheek before she left the room. Naruto waved to Karen, then turned around to see the rest of his girls smiling at him, even Sakura and Hinata, who had just woken up. "I love all you girls. We love you too," all the girls said as they crushed Naruto in a group hug. "I want all of you to head home and rest up," Naruto said as the girls released him from the hug. "Naruto were." Tenten tried to argue, but Naruto stopped her. "Tenten, I'm the head of this family, and what I say goes," Naruto said sternly before his face softened. "I just want your pregnancies to go as smoothly as possible. So please just go home and rest for a bit, we can all get together later." Okay, Naruto, Tenten said as Naruto kissed her cheek. I'll see you girls later, Naruto said before he walked out of the room. Sakura turned around to see all the other girls staring at her. All right, you heard him. Head home and get some rest, Sakura said as all the girls left the room.